What small thing makes you automatically distrust someone? When they talk mad foolishness about everyone around them to you, and since it's all nonsense you just let it go in one ear and out the other. But the moment you vent your frustration they run and tell everyone this exaggerated story which makes you look awful, and the whole time you know they're the fire starter but you can't say anything without looking petty. And that's how I quit my job. You'll have fun with that. Oh geez. I grew up in the States, but now living in my birth country in Asia. Met this girl at a friend's little get together at his house. She said something to me, then my friends said, "Speak English to him." Stereotype here, English speakers. After that she talked to me the whole night, despite her boyfriend being there. It was awkward as hell. I tried to look not interested or involve him in the conversation so he knew it was just innocent talk. Later on in the night, she starts telling me that her family has a restraining order on him for her but she still sees him. She told me this and he was a few feet from her. After she told me that, I just hung out with another group at the place. They constantly talk smack about others but all the stories are skewed to their favor. I watch my mouth around people like that and try to only say things I don't mind getting out. Best if they add how those people are positively influenced by him and how he had helped them in their lives. Being in my 30s now, it still baffles me how friends of mine on Facebook continue to post obscure statements about cutting people out who are ungrateful or what have you. Always feels like needless drama that could have been avoided earlier on because adults, but whatever. I've gradually learned that some people just really enjoy the drama. Their own life is boring to them and they thrive off of having the best stories on other people. Our local librarian will talk about anyone, good or bad. Usually she tries to act like everyone already knows and believes what she's saying, so she just has to hint and raise her eyebrows, and she remembers basically everything you've ever told her. So I too try to give her as little as possible outside of what I'm fine with everyone knowing. Edit. It's a small town, so she has legit known me for 20 years. I don't think I'd be able to feed her lies and I don't want her to call me out on it in 10 years. It seems to me that a lot of the gossip is either 20 years outdated or stuff about people who work for the town that the other people in those fields also know or talk about. As a former librarian in a very small town, we definitely knew everything. The library was a clearinghouse for local gossip. The library director knew everyone and had been running the place for 40 years. The local cops and firemen would stop in and update her constantly. There was very little that went on in that town that I didn't hear about in the library. When they judge others for the very things they're guilty of themselves. I mean, I get that it's difficult to see your own faults sometimes, but it's pretty comical when the pot calls the kettle black. I know someone who always complains about people being arrogant and rude to her, but she doesn't realize that everyone feels like they're walking on eggshells around her because of how unnecessarily rude she can be over anything you say. When she complains about how mean everyone is at work and how difficult her job is, I can't help but wonder how much of it is self-inflicted because of her own personality and the way she responds to them. Oh man, this hits close to home. My parents were quite well off, self-employed real estate developers before the financial crisis. Then everything went tits up. My mom had to get a job for the first time in decades. She is incredibly smart and driven, and has this attitude that she is the only one who can do anything competently. For years she either quit or got fired from every job she had. She was always complaining about how terrible her managers were and how they were impossible to work with. And I kept thinking, yeah, maybe it's not them. She finally got a job she loves with people she likes, but the first few months were tough as, I assume, her co-workers got used to her aggressive style. Accountability, not owing up to their mistakes, improper apologies. TLDR of the story, I make time out of my day to give a girl, my friend, a free photo shoot, which I rarely do anymore. She shows up an hour late, apologizes so that both of us take the blame when I am not in the wrong at all. I scheduled a photo shoot for 4 PM. I was there at 3:50 PM. At 4:10 PM, she tells me she's at Party City. It was a birthday shoot. I ask her why is she over there when she knew she had to be at the location at 4 PM. She tells me not to worry and that I'm almost there. I tell her she's got until 4:30 PM and then I'm going to leave. Side note, she has done this to me repeatedly before and I've grilled her, both through text and in person, about her timeliness. She is regularly, no joke, an hour or 2 hours late. Prior to this meeting, we did dinner with a few friends. I told everyone to be there at 7 PM and I told her to be there at 6 PM. She showed up at 7:30 PM. She also made a friend wait 2 hours for her own dinner. Every time she's late, she has a new excuse. So, once I tell her that, she texts me, "You better not leave, we're coming." So, I said, "You've got until 4:30 PM again." Then I told her I'd stay if she was telling me the truth, that she'd be there at 4:40. I told her to screenshot her maps. After repeatedly demanding to see her maps, she reluctantly sends me a screenshot. She'll be there at 4:50 PM, not 4:40 PM like she was saying. It was 4:27 PM when she sent that. I have been waiting for 40 minutes. I put my car into drive and I leave. She texts me 20 minutes later asking where I am. 2 days later she says, paraphrased, "I'm sorry, but next time don't schedule it so far from me." This is why I was asking if you could shoot somewhere else at 12 PM. So, everything is her fault. Yet she doesn't even want to be held accountable for it. A half-assed apology. I told her straight up how I felt. Please tell me I'm not crazy, everyone. Please tell me that I have the right to be outraged by this complete disrespect of someone else's time. I'll attach screenshots of this convo shortly too if you all would like. Edit. I would also like to clarify that she said to me that her house was an hour and 30 minutes from the location. I texted a mutual friend of ours and asked her for her late person's address. She is only 30 minutes away from the location. She lied to me so many times instead of owning up to her being late. Even if you were an hour and 30 minutes from the location, that doesn't stop you from not being on time. Yes, people who are always late have themselves as the #1 priority at all times. I understand having poor time management skills and thinking you can get ready and get somewhere sooner than you actually can, or that occasionally shit happens and makes you severely late. Just don't make excuses, own up to it, and update the people who are going to be waiting for you ASAP so they waste as little of their time as possible. Really though, I think people who deflect accountability for everything are definitely the least trustworthy. They will mess other people over and tell them it's their fault. They can rationalize doing basically anything. This was one of the things that drove me and my ex apart. He was chronically late for everything and would rarely tell me he was going to be late. One winter break we discussed plans for him to drive to my city to stay with me for a few days on Thursday evening. The time he was supposed to be there comes and goes. I called to check in on him. Maybe he got held up doing something. He says he'll leave soon. It gets later and later and he never texts me to tell me he's leaving. Finally he says he's not coming Thursday. Didn't end up making it in until Friday night. I was pissed. I'd made plans and was really looking forward to seeing him. He just never seemed to value my time and place himself above any commitments he'd made. This lazy, selfish attitude spilled over into other areas of our relationship and he made no effort to correct it even though he agreed with my assessment every time I pointed it out. Glad that relationship is done. As a person who is always very punctual, or at least legitimately communicates and accommodates when things don't go according to plan, it was beyond frustrating. If you make a snarky or rude comment to me disguised as something neutral or helpful, only something I've encountered with other women, honestly, it's something you pick up on if you pay attention, but it's usually really subtle. Here's an example to paint a picture. I was recently at a work event next to a chocolate fountain talking to one of my male co-workers, friends for a couple years, totally platonic, and while his back is turned from me for a minute, this woman, whom I've never spoken to, but see around work, walks up to me and says, "You have chocolate on your face." I thought, oh shit, homegirl, looking out and asked her where, twice, and she ignored me despite being right next to me. I was standing by the fountain but hadn't eaten any chocolate, so I pulled my co-worker friend over again and asked him if I had anything on my face and he said no. Checked a mirror too. She made it obvious the rest of the event that she was into him, and wanted me to step aside so she could talk to him. It all felt like such high school let me assert my dominance to hide my insecurity. I don't trust people who don't have the self-confidence to command attention or respect without being catty or bringing others down. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm only 16, so I hope you didn't cringe from the editing. I hope we can get to 50,000 subscribers because I wouldn't be here without all of you. So thank you so much for your time and energy, and please subscribe.